It's about time I responded to this YouTuber, the Thinking Ape, because he's now misframing men's issues. When I got on YouTube over 10 years ago, he was one of the first YouTubers that talked about men's issues, and he was good for the time, but now he's causing damage because he's got the framing wrong. See what he's got here? This woman, give me your stuff. That's misframing, Thinking Ape. It's, I hate men and I want to harm men. That's what's really going on here. So we'll get into this and I will put commentary over it and correct him where he needs correcting.
Reached a point right now in late 2023 where most people don't call themselves feminists, and most people don't even talk all too much about feminism. In fact, I think in terms of the cultural status of feminism, most people would, for lack of a better word, regard as cringe.
Well, this is where you're getting wrong, pal. First of all, guys don't talk about it because they still want to beg women into their lives. When they talk about feminism, they get deselected. So that's why the men don't. And the women, I run into all kinds of women that if I ask, are you a feminist? They'll say, yes, I am. So you're just wrong about that.
Are cringeworthy. And so with that observation, many people might be all too willing to celebrate, think that, oh, we won, or it's over, or that feminism has been defeated, or we don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, that's guys putting their heads in the sand, isn't it? As you can see, UK implemented those staring laws, right, for men. Men, keep your eyes down. Don't look at women. It's an ongoing process, Thinking Ape. They've been hard at work for generations, and they're still going.
At all anymore. And generally speaking, I don't talk about it terribly much, because although I do think it's important,
well, if you don't talk about it very much, then you've got your head in the sand. This is 100% important for men. It's the head of the snake.
Ultimately, I think technological environmental changes and shifts are more important with respect to human behavior. That doesn't mean...
Dude, they haven't changed human behavior. They've allowed human behavior to be shown. That's a very important distinction. You know, first world technological countries, right? The women actually deselect the men. They get enough money themselves that they no longer need men to leech off of, and then they deselect them. They dump them. So all that you're talking about is that women have always felt this way about men. Women in the past, before, modern times, hated men. They needed us, so they leached off us, but they still hated us the whole time. That's why framing is so important.
I mean that feminism has not had a profound socio-cultural effect on all of Western civilization. It most certainly has. And with that,
thank you for admitting that. And it's still ongoing. And feminism comes from women. It speaks for women. So it's not separate.
I want to talk about the current iteration, if you will, of feminism. Feminism 9.
There is no current iteration. There are no waves. It's all the same thing. It's a hate movement. The suffragettes hated men, and the so-called third wave women hate men because women hate men.
7 gazillion whatever, they're always going through these different iterations in the sense of where we are right now with respect to what feminism was and what it purports or claims to be.
Look, hate movements switching up their labels happens all the time, right? There's the KKK, the skinheads, and then all of a sudden they're the alt-right, and then they switch that name up to something else. This is how it works.
Now, normally, when people talk about feminism, they will talk about, oh, I believe in equality between the sexes. Feminism is about equality between the sexes. But when you dig more deeply, and decide to use your brain a little bit, you realize that equality between the sexes really just means men have stuff and things that I want that I seemingly don't have.
Okay, so this is where you get the framing wrong. This isn't about give me your stuff, because impoverished men are harmed, dude. Impoverished men are still tramped on by women and feminism.
That's really what it is. Men have stuff that I want that I don't have. And even this perception of the things that men have and the stuff that men have that women want is oftentimes skewed by cognitive biases.
Well, it's not a perception about what men have. Women are just lying. The give me your stuff is done out of hatred. It's not that they so much that they want the stuff because they like the stuff. They want the stuff because it hurts men. Let me show you something. Let me show you something. How does putting grates over heating vents to prevent homeless men from sleeping on them, how does that have anything to do with give me your stuff? Just asking.
Cognitive biases such as the apex fallacy. So, very common observation, when women talk about the privileges of men, almost exclusively, they're talking about the top 10%, maybe even top 5 or 1%.
Okay, so I don't know if you're just lying or if you get your head in the sand or you're just wrong. You just haven't thought this through. When women talk about the patriarchy, they include all men. You wouldn't have a problem if they were only going after the apex men, because you're not apex. No, you and I are affected just as much. No matter how impoverished we are, we're all a part of the patriarchy, and we all have to suffer.
Wealthy, successful, attractive men who, yes, garner a lot of rewards because they're genetically blessed and they've had a fortunate environment. They're not.
You are getting butthurt and jealous over men who have made it because you're leaving out the fact that men get there through effort. Men get there. It's not just that they get in the right environment. They still have to climb the ladders, which women don't have to at all.
Talking about, say, the vast majority of homeless, who tend to be men, who are living their lives out on the streets as bums with various afflictions, be it drug addiction, alcohol addiction, or mental illness. Those men are invisible. The other men that are...
I disagree, and that's why I brought this up. Homeless men aren't really invisible. They're very visible to women. They hate their guts, and they support this sort of thing. They support saying these men are just trying to survive. I want to make men homeless, and then I want them to suffer and die. That's why they do this. So you're just blatantly wrong about this.
Invisible to feminists and to women more broadly are the men in the middle. Average guys, average dudes. Again, the feminists are not talking about the guy hauling his ass at 2 jobs working at Starbucks.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. Again, we're all a part of the patriarchy.
And then working at McDonald's, or some guy who's a plumber someplace who might be doing decently well, because even though the plumber might be doing decently well, he doesn't have high status. So again, feminism and women more broadly are very selective in their perception of the goodies and the stuff that men have that they want.
No, they aren't selective. They aren't selective. They hate us all. Women see men as opponents of the opposite team, period. If they were selective, you wouldn't be having an issue with this again. You're low status.
Want to have, all the while using the broadest of sweeping brushes, which is saying men. Men have X. Well, if it turns out that only, say, 3% of men have X, is that then really a fair and judicious use of your powers of reasoning?
Oh,
Probably.
The reasoning is perfect. It's perfect reasoning for hate movement. They're lying. You tell lies about the people you hate. You say, even when they're poor, they have something. It's to hate on them. Doesn't have to be true. So see what I mean? You're misframing on purpose. You get your head in the sand. Women don't like men. And this is what you, Thinking Ape, can't come to terms with.
Not. And much of this has been there at the outset. The earliest suffragettes actually ran into friction and resistance from other women because the women at the time didn't want the responsibilities, the civic and military responsibilities of the men involved. And so they
And neither did the suffragettes. There's no way the suffragettes would have gone for the vote if they really thought they would have to go to war.
rejected, say, the vote. And although there have occasionally been women that truly believe in quote unquote equality.
Okay, you're talking about the unicorn. Something you've done videos on yourself. There are no women who think like that. They do not exist.
With all the things attached to it, obligations, etc., they're few and far between. Most of the time, historically, feminism has been about we don't have something, men have something, we want it.
No. It's been we hate men, we're going to lie about men, and we're going to harm men. That's what it is. That's the proper framing.
And how did men get these things? Well, they cheated their way into it. They oppressed us. They were tyrannical, and it's unfair. Well, yes, life is fundamentally unfair.
Yeah, they lied. They tell their lies. Exactly. And why are you talking about it being fundamentally unfair? Why are you giving into their framework? Women have everything, dude. They leech off men and they get free quotas for everything. They've always had everything. They've had what men had without working for it. So they've never suffered an ounce of unfairness between the sexes ever, anywhere throughout all history.
We do not have a solution to this, but it's a little more complicated than men were tyrannical, they oppressed us, etc., etc. Again,
it's not complicated, dude. It's not real. It's not truthful.
and when you're prioritizing women's lives over men's lives in virtually every situation historically,
No. This is where you're getting wrong. This isn't about prioritizing women. This is about hating men. Again, what does putting grates over the heating vents to harm homeless men? How is that prioritizing women? How is circumcising helpless baby boys prioritizing women? How? It's not. We aren't prioritizing women. We're harming men.
whether it comes to agrarian societies where men would be slaughtered to the last, but women at least would be given the chance to live and continue to live, to women.
And again, that isn't prioritizing women. That's hating men. That's them saying, I want these women for myself, but I got to kill off all the males to get them.
Not being subjected to the draft, to women being the ones, along with children, being saved on lifeboats whilst their husbands and partners drown.
And by the way, the children aren't important to society. It's the women that they care about. As I just showed with the circumcised boys, it's the women they care about.
In icy waters, yeah, people call it benevolent sexism, but it sure as hell seems better than just being the guy who ends up dying.
Okay, why are you giving into a false frame? I'm screwing the word up. Benevolent sexism is an insult to men. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. Because it's a hate movement and because women don't like men, Thinking Ape, whatever we do will be put on a bad light. It'll be put in a negative light. So men are bad to women, we're bad. We're good to women, it's also bad. So you have to understand the very source and core of what's going on, which you aren't. You're avoiding it.
My humble opinion. And women, again, are generally blind to this, which is why feminists.
No, they're not blind. Women are not blind. They simply lie to us. They simply lie to us. So you are coping now.
Who are, by and large, women, are blind to this. You see, feminism has been a kind of Jedi mind trick that women have played upon themselves.
Okay, this is cope through the roof. This is some outside force tricked our loving women into behaving like this. No. When you catch a kid stealing out of the cookie jar and they say, I didn't do it, they aren't doing a mind trick on themselves. They're simply lying.
They never looked at the data. They are blind to
They don't need to look at data to tell a lie.
the vast majority of men's plight and situation, i.e. the apex fallacy, and draw conclusions from what's effectively a type of delusion. And despite
You are the one who's delusional. Because let me tell you something, if I challenge feminism, the average woman who doesn't call herself one will get upset because she is a feminist. They know what's going on.
despite that, feminism was able to get its greedy claws into various institutions.
Not greedy claws, hateful claws. And this is why I'm calling you out, Thinking-Ape. You want to make this about money to avoid the simple fact that it's about hatred of men.
Massively so, at the sociocultural level, government, academia, even day-to-day life, solely predicated on half-truths that don't entirely map onto reality.
No, not half-truths, just outright lies.
Well, it seems now that the chicken has come home to roost, so to speak, in the form of many people, especially women, renouncing feminism, saying that they're not feminists. And
yeah, nothing's coming home to roost. All that's going on here, Thinking-Ape, is there's some women who see a high-status man they want to partner with, and they want to lie to him, and they want these other women who are hating on men to shut up while they're doing it. That's all that's going on here. They aren't suffering. Look, all these man-hating feminists of the past, they got boyfriends, right? There is no blowback.
why do they say this? This has nothing to do with the revelation of data or, oh, the pay gap actually makes sense because men work different jobs, harder jobs, put in more hours per week. No, it has to do with women coming to the conclusion that feminism has been a raw deal for them.
Really, how has it been a raw deal? How has women suffered ever? So the only thing you're pointing out is that some women are trying to either get a high status man or she has one and she wants to maintain him for a while, right? You know, divorce rape is a thing. So even the ones that want to maintain their man don't want to maintain him forever. All you're saying is like this corporation found out that there's a ceiling to profits. That's really not something coming home to roost or blowback.
So whatever angle we look at feminism from, it is invariably a gynocentric one. One of the most famous examples of this is this woman, Louise Perry, who wrote this book called The Case Against the Sexual Revolution, A New Guide to Sex in the 21st Century.
Oh, by the way, that's also hatred of men. You know, these Tradcon women who go on about the sexual revolution, it's not because they think women shouldn't be able to spread their legs. It's because men were actually getting easier access, or at least in their minds, easier access to women. It's man hatred, dude. Do you understand that? It's man hatred. It's like these women were spreading their legs or spreading legs for these men, and I hate men. And I don't want men to have any sexual pleasure. I mean, that's what the circumcision's about, right?
And a lot of the book is rallying against feminism and the sexual revolution, which coincides with that to a great extent. But it's entirely from a gynocentric perspective and how women have lost out on these things. And so, in as much as people have
that's a pulled-faced lie. Women haven't lost out on anything.
rejected feminism, and by people I usually mean women, is it a rejection because things were predicated upon false realities and false perception?
They're not rejecting feminism. These women, these Tradcon women, believe in feminist ideals. I bet they believe that men held women down. So if you quiz women on what they believe in feminist ideals or feminist lies, I should say. And so they are feminist. You even made videos talking about the uppercase feminism and lowercase feminism. All women are feminists. So you've mentioned that. So you're actually not only coming to a dead end, you're regressing. You're actually harming men's issues by talking like this.
Or is it a rejection because they feel that they've been shortchanged because they've gotten a raw deal? I think it's very much the latter as opposed to the former. This is and always will be the problem until we fundamentally change ourselves in terms of cyborgs or something else.
Okay, this is your idea of having technology come to the rescue is just pathetic, Thinking-Ape. What we do is look at what we shouldn't be doing and stop doing it. I mean, what do you think moral codes are about, right? What are moral codes about? It's about us looking at our animal behavior and saying we're above that. And so we stop ourselves from doing that. So you talking about cyborgs and stuff like this, it just means that you don't want to push men to behave better.
The byproducts, as I've said so many times for over a decade, of an incredibly long evolutionary trail that haunts us to this day.
And this is this is what the guys call biological reductionism, that you should have ditched years ago. You know, when the KKK burns a cross on the lawn of some black family, they don't talk about animal behavior and evolution and why they're doing it. They say, these people are evil. We got to stop them. And this is what you do with feminist hate. You don't go on, bang on about, being animals and evolution.
We are animals. We have not escaped our animal nature. We are very specific and peculiar animals, I must say that, but we are still animals. And that evolutionary trail haunts us to this day in the modern setting, despite what people will claim that culture and society have somehow deleted that evolutionary past, have somehow made us overcome that evolutionary baggage. No, that's manifestly not the case.
But you just mentioned earlier that, our technology has changed things for us. And now you're admitting that it isn't. The technology and easy life of first world countries takes the mask off of what was always there. I agree with that. But also, people have been fighting animal nature forever. That's what the moral code is. That's why we make the legal system.
We know this, we can observe it if you just open your eyes and use your brain. But so many people steadfastly refuse to do that. And
well, you're one of them. You can't even get the framing right.
Because we favor women's lives over men's lives, and it makes sense, right?
No. We don't favor them. We hate men. We hate men. Again, what does doing this to homeless men and doing this to helpless baby boys, what's that got to do with prioritizing women? It isn't.
Sperm are cheap, eggs are expensive. That's the very, very simple equation.
It's a simple equation, and it's a wrong equation. What have you noticed? When first world countries, or I should say third world countries, actually manage to make it to become first world countries, what happens? The birth rates drop. So we don't care about children at all. We don't care about passing on our genes. So this sperm egg business, that should have been tossed out long ago.
You need to be a rocket scientist to understand it. Anything that affects women negatively eventually will fall into disrepute, which is why feminism, in many circles these days, has fallen into a state of disrepute.
Well, you're wrong, dude. You're wrong. Feminism have taken over Hollywood. They've taken over the legal system. People, if like I say, if you start really going after feminism, the average woman who, including these Tradcon women who don't call themselves feminists, will still get angry and fight you and support the feminist hate mongers. So you're wrong in all accounts, right?
And yes, of course, there are different iterations, blah, blah, blah. But there are plenty of women that have woken up to the reality of feminism. Usually this waking
Okay, that's pathetic. If they've woken up, how come things are getting worse instead of better? Then where was that? There's UK staring laws, right? Things are getting worse for men. And the reason why they were able to do this is because the average woman supports this. They love the idea that if a man is just minding his own business on the transit, she can call the police on him just for fun. And it works that way, dude. It works that way. The average woman is in on this because the average woman doesn't like the average man. So women haven't woken up to anything. And you call yourself a thinking ape.
up is a form of Tradconism or something like that. Oh, we got a raw deal. Oh, they screwed us over. Oh my God, feminism is bad. Me, 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 me.
Yeah, they're lying, dude. They're lying. They believe in feminist lies. So they're lying again to your face. Doesn't change anything. This is copium that you're breathing in, that women have woken up and they've changed their minds.
Remember me syndrome? That's what feminism started off as. Men have goodies that I don't have. They have stuff that I don't have.
No. I hate men and we're going to work to harm men. That's what's going on.
I want it. Give it to me. Gimme, 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 gimme.
Again, how does circumcising little boys give women anything? How does abusing the homeless man on the streets give women anything? It doesn't.
Give me the stuff. Now it's, maybe men have certain things that I want, but if I try to get them, I have to give up way too much. And
No, they're not giving up anything. If you want to get them, I have to tell the lie that I like them. That's what they have to do. And these feminist women are pulling the mask off. But these feminist women and the so-called non-feminist women feel the exact same way about us. Thinking-Ape.
kind of been screwed over by this ideology, so let's campaign against it. Let's say it's not as good as we thought it would be. Anti-feminism, not a feminist, blah, blah, blah. Because, again, it affects women negatively. However we frame feminism...
No, it doesn't affect them negatively. You're misframing it. Either you're lying or you're just a stupid man. I don't know which one it is. But this is a lie, and it's an obvious lie.
And general broader societal concerns, it will always be in the framework of either men have something that women don't have, and therefore women want it, or it affects women negatively. There's no
middle. Since both of those are lies, what it is, it's we hate men, and we're going to tell lies about them to harm them. That's what's going on here.
Ground there for the vast majority of people, and certainly not the vast majority of feminists and women. It's he's got something and I want it, or women are suffering, all the while ignoring the suffering of men, whether they're boys.
Again, they're not ignoring the suffering men. This is not ignoring men. This is causing suffering. This is not ignoring men. This is causing the suffering of men. Very simple. It's not complicated thinking, Ape.
Whether they're young men, whether they're middle-aged, whether they're older, you might as well be invisible for the most part. The issues you face, nobody cares.
Well, this is it. You're right. The issues men face, nobody cares. But we aren't really invisible. We are always there. Women just don't live off men. They don't just live it. The hate movement needs men to harm. It's sadistic. It's a work of sadism. Women will always desire men. It's just that they won't desire us in a positive way. Women desire men in a negative way. They want us to exist so that they can harm us. You have a video yourself talking about this all-female company, right? And they turned on one another because there was no men to be the bad guy. So their sadism turned inward amongst their own group. No. Women love to have men around they hate. That's what's happening here.
And these women, these reform feminists, who claim that they're not feminists anymore because it hurts women, they clearly don't care about you at all. At best, they might want a man to be an efficient workhorse provider,
Exactly. Now you're getting it.
box basically, and that's about it. So in essence, when we
beta bucks, dude, throw away the beta. Know what happens? Elon Musk, is he an alpha or a beta? Guys will call him alpha because he's gained status. He's a super rich guy. But then they'll call him a beta when the women he's bribing decide to divorce rape him. So you should know to throw away the alpha beta nonsense by now.
we look at feminism in the current year and going forward, whatever new iteration it is, 27.97834, whatever they want.
There's no new iterations. Relabeling themselves is not a new iteration. And they all have the same effect, damaging effect. So this is why I don't need to go any further. This is why I'm responding to you, Thinking-Ape, because you're not thinking. You are a man who's jealous of men who've made it. You're deselected, and you don't want to come to terms with the fact that you're deselected simply because women don't like men. You can't come to terms with that. And that's why you try to make this about money. And you're harming men's issues with this misframing. So I'm correcting you. You're welcome.